My family skipped my college graduation but demanded I share the $500,000 inheritance Grandpa left me, so I let them make their case, heard them out completely, and used it all to fund scholarships for kids. Hey family, your support keeps these stories alive. Subscribe, say hi in the comments, and tell us your city or country. Let's get into today's story. I stood backstage in my cap and gown, phone pressed against my ear, listening to my mother's voicemail for the third time. Honey, your brother's tournament got moved to today. We can't make it. You understand, right? My hands trembled as I scanned the auditorium filling with families, balloons, and flowers. 4 years of sleepless nights, working double shifts at the diner while maintaining a 3.9 GPA, and they chose Nelson's basketball game over my college graduation. Not even my sister Selma showed up. My best friend Connie squeezed my shoulder. They're really not coming? Her voice cracked with the anger I couldn't let myself feel yet. I shook my head, swallowing the lump in my throat. When they called my name, Jeannie Nicole Thompson, summa cum laude, Bachelor of Science in Engineering, I walked across that stage alone. The applause felt hollow. I smiled for the cameras, but inside something fundamental shifted. That empty row of seats represented every school play, every award ceremony, every milestone they'd missed because I wasn't Nelson or Selma. Later, sitting in my apartment surrounded by congratulations cards from professors and classmates, I allowed myself to cry. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Congrats, kiddo. Nelson won MVP. Not one word acknowledging their absence. Not one apology. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to beg for their attention anymore. Little did I know, everything was about to get infinitely more complicated. 3 weeks later, I was elbow-deep in job applications when my phone rang. Miss Thompson? This is Albert Martinez from Martinez & Associates Law Firm. I'm calling regarding your grandfather's estate. My heart stopped. Grandpa Earl had passed away 2 months before my graduation. Another funeral my family barely acknowledged I attended. They were too busy with Nelson's championship celebrations. Your grandfather left you as the sole beneficiary of a substantial inheritance. $500,000 to be precise. The room spun. I grabbed the edge of my desk, certain I'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? Mr. Martinez cleared his throat. Your grandfather was very specific in his will. He left everything to you, Miss Thompson. He included a letter I'm required to read. To my Jeannie, the only one who visited me every Sunday, who listened to my stories, who reminded me what family should be. You earned this through love, not obligation. Tears streamed down my face as memories flooded back. Sunday afternoons at the nursing home, playing chess, listening to his stories about the civil rights movement, about building his business from nothing. While everyone else was too busy, I was there. Every single week for 6 years. The money comes from the sale of his grocery store and properties, Mr. Martinez continued. We'll need to schedule a meeting to finalize paperwork. I hung up in shock. $500,000. The amount felt surreal, overwhelming. I could pay off my student loans, put a down payment on a house, start the nonprofit I'd always dreamed of. For the first time since graduation, I felt like maybe things were looking up. Then my phone rang again. It was my mother. Baby girl. We've been meaning to call. My mother's voice was syrupy sweet, dripping with false warmth I'd never heard before. We heard about your grandfather's will. Such a blessing, isn't it? God works in mysterious ways. My stomach dropped. News traveled fast in our family, apparently only when money was involved. How did you find out? I asked carefully. Oh, your Aunt Patricia told us. She heard from the lawyer's office. Honey, we need to talk about this inheritance. It's family money, you understand. Your grandfather would have wanted all of us to benefit. There was not, how are you doing? Not, we're sorry we missed your graduation. Just immediate demands on money that was legally mine. Mom, Grandpa specifically left it to me. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted, harder now. Jeannie, don't be selfish. Your brother needs money for his training program. Selma's struggling with her rent. Your father and I have been supporting this family while you were off at college. The least you could do is share what you got for sitting with a senile old man every week. The words hit like a physical blow. Senile old man. That's what she called the grandfather who raised her, who built a business to support generations of our family. I have to go, Mom. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Within an hour I had 15 missed calls. Texts flooded in from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone suddenly remembered I existed. Everyone wanted a piece of what Grandpa Earl left me. And everyone seemed to think they deserved it more than I did. They showed up at my apartment unannounced on Saturday morning. I opened the door to find my entire family crowded in the hallway. Mom, Dad, Nelson, Selma, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Kenneth, and even Cousin Trey, who I'd seen maybe twice in my life. "We need to have a family discussion," Dad announced, pushing past me into my small living room. They arranged themselves like a tribunal, Mom and Dad on my couch, everyone else standing behind them like backup. Nelson sprawled in my reading chair like he owned it, scrolling through his phone. "So," Uncle Kenneth started, "we've been talking and we think the fair thing is to split this inheritance equally among immediate family. That means each of the kids gets a third, and your parents get to hold the rest for family expenses." I stared at him, genuinely speechless. Fair. The word tasted bitter. What's fair about that? Selma rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic, Jazz. We're family. We share. That's what families do." The audacity was breathtaking. This same sister hadn't returned my calls in 6 months, had stood me up for my graduation, and now she wanted a third of my inheritance. Where was this family when I was working nights to pay for textbooks? My voice rose despite my attempts to stay calm. Where were you when I was eating ramen for dinner because I couldn't afford groceries and rent? Where were all of you at my graduation 3 weeks ago? Mom waved her hand dismissively. "You're still upset about that? Nelson had a tournament. You know how important his career is. And mine isn't?" The question hung in the air. Something inside me cracked wide open. Years of being invisible, of being the responsible one, of sacrificing while they celebrated Nelson's every achievement. It all came rushing out. "Get out. All of you, get out of my apartment right now." They didn't leave quietly. Dad stood, his face turning red. "You're making a huge mistake, Jeannie. You turn your back on this family and you'll regret it." It wasn't a warning, it was a threat. Nelson finally looked up from his phone long enough to smirk. "Come on, sis. Don't be like that. We're blood. You really gonna choose money over family?" The manipulation was so transparent it would have been laughable if it wasn't so painful. "You chose money over family when you skipped my graduation for a basketball game," I shot back. "You chose money every time you made me feel guilty for pursuing my education instead of working to support Nelson's dreams. This isn't about choosing money. This is about the fact that none of you have ever chosen me." Aunt Patricia gasped like I'd slapped her. "How dare you speak to your family this way? Your grandfather would be ashamed." That broke something in me. "You didn't even go to his funeral." My voice cracked. "I sat alone in that chapel while you were all at Nelson's awards ceremony. Don't you dare tell me what Grandpa would think. He knew exactly who I was and who all of you are. That's why he left everything to me." They filed out one by one, each leaving their own parting shot. Selma's was the worst. "You're gonna end up alone, Jazz. Just like Grandpa did. Hope that money keeps you warm at night." When the door finally closed, I collapsed against it, sliding to the floor. My phone immediately started buzzing. Text after text flooded in, each more vicious than the last. From Mom, "You've always been selfish. This proves it." From Dad, "Don't come crying to us when you need help." From Nelson, "Dead to me." But it was the message from my grandmother that broke me. "Your grandfather gave you that money because he believed in you. Don't let them take that away." Grandma Rose, who I thought had sided with everyone else, was the only one defending me. Monday morning, I woke up to discover my face plastered across social media. Selma had posted a long rant about greedy family members who abandon their roots when they get a little money. She didn't mention my name, but the comments made it clear everyone knew exactly who she meant. Cousins I barely knew were sharing it, adding their own commentary about how I'd changed and forgotten where I came from. My phone rang. Connie. Girl, have you seen what they're posting about you? Her voice was tight with anger. I've been reporting every comment I can find, but they keep coming. I scrolled through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The narrative they'd crafted was clear. I was the villain. The ungrateful daughter who refused to help her struggling family. No mention of my graduation. No mention of the years I supported myself. Just a one-sided story painting me as a monster. Someone had even created a fake GoFundMe claiming to raise money for my struggling family that I'd abandoned. It had already raised $300 before I reported it. The description read, "Our family member received a large inheritance but refuses to help her parents who sacrificed everything for her education. Please help us during this difficult time." The lies were so blatant, so calculated, I felt physically sick. At work, coworkers started giving me strange looks. My manager called me into her office. "Jeannie, I need to ask you about some things that have come to my attention." Someone had sent screenshots of the posts to my workplace, trying to damage my professional reputation too. I explained everything. The graduation, the inheritance, the truth behind their smear campaign. She believed me, thank God, but the damage was spreading. That night, I sat in my apartment with Connie, both of us monitoring the online attacks. "They're not going to stop," she said quietly. "Not until they get what they want or destroy you trying." I thought about giving in, about just splitting the money to make the nightmare end. Then I remembered Grandpa Earl's letter. I pulled it from my desk drawer and read it again. "You earned this through love, not obligation." The harassment escalated. My parents started showing up at my apartment building, buzzing my intercom at all hours. My landlord complained. Neighbors whispered. I changed my phone number, but somehow they got the new one within days. At work, I received letters supposedly from concerned community members, urging me to do the right thing and support my family. Each one was clearly written by my mother. I recognized her handwriting. Then Nelson showed up at my job. He walked into the engineering firm during my lunch break, causing a scene in the lobby. There she is. The sister who cares more about money than her own brother. Security escorted him out, but not before he'd made sure everyone saw. My boss called me in again. "Jeannie, you're an excellent employee, but this is becoming a problem. I need you to resolve your family issues away from the workplace." I was being punished for being victimized. The injustice of it made me want to scream. That night, I blocked every family member on every platform. I documented everything. The harassment, the threats, the fake fundraiser, the workplace disruptions. Connie suggested I file for a restraining order. "This is stalking, Jazz. This is harassment. You have legal options. But how do you get a restraining order against your entire family?" Friday evening, I came home to find someone had tried to break into my apartment. The door frame was damaged, scratches around the lock like someone had attempted to pick it. Nothing was missing, but the violation felt complete. My sanctuary, the place I'd worked so hard to afford, no longer felt safe. I called the police, filed a report, but without proof of who did it, they couldn't do much. I spent that night at Connie's house, unable to sleep. Every sound made me jump. In the darkness, I made a decision. I wasn't going to keep living in fear. I wasn't going to let them terrorize me into submission. If they wanted to play hardball, I could too. But I would do it my way, with dignity, purpose, and in a manner that would honor Grandpa Earl's memory. The inheritance wasn't going to tear me apart. I was going to use it to build something meaningful. I called a family meeting. Through my grandmother, the only person I still trusted, I sent a message. I would hear everyone out, give them a chance to make their case for why they deserved part of the inheritance. One meeting, all grievances aired, no interruptions. Then I would make my final decision. They agreed immediately, probably thinking they'd already won. We met at Grandma Rose's house on neutral ground. Everyone showed up. Even relatives who hadn't been part of the harassment showed up hoping for a peace. I sat at the head of the table with my notebook, a lawyer present as my witness. "Everyone gets 5 minutes, I announced. "Say what you need to say. I'll listen to all of it. Then I make my decision, and that decision is final." Mom went first. "Jeannie, honey, I know we hurt you by missing your graduation. But you have to understand Nelson's future is at stake. He has a real shot at going professional. This money could pay for elite training for exposure to scouts. You're already successful, you have your degree, your job. This is his chance. The fact that she still didn't apologize, just justified, told me everything. Dad was next. Your mother and I have spent 30 years building this family. We put a roof over your head, food on your table. We sacrificed so you kids could have opportunities we never had. This inheritance, it's not really yours alone. It's Earl's way of giving back to all of us. He would have wanted his son to benefit. Think about legacy, Jeannie. Think about honoring your grandfather properly. Selma's pitch was more direct. I'm drowning in debt, Jazz. Student loans, credit cards, medical bills. I need help and you have the means to help. Isn't that what family does? We help each other. I know I haven't been the best sister, but I'm asking you now. Please. For a moment I almost felt sympathy. Then I remembered she'd called me greedy on social media just days ago. Nelson didn't even bother with emotion. Look, I need 50 grand for training. That's it. That's all I'm asking. Give me 50, split the rest however you want. You owe me for all the years Mom and Dad spent more time worrying about your grades than my games. The entitlement was staggering. Uncle Kenneth stood next. I'd barely interacted with him growing up. He'd moved to another state when I was 10. Jeannie, I know we're not close. But your grandfather helped me start my business years ago. I've hit some hard times. The shop's going under. I need a loan, maybe $75,000 to keep it afloat. I'll pay you back, I swear. With interest. Aunt Patricia's request was more emotional. She cried through her entire 5 minutes, talking about her medical bills, her daughter's special needs, how hard it was being a single mother. Unlike the others, she at least acknowledged I didn't owe her anything. I'm just asking, niece to aunt. If you can find it in your heart. Her pain felt genuine, but I also knew she'd participated in the social media attacks. Cousin Trey wanted money for a business opportunity, a vague pyramid scheme that made my engineering brain hurt. Other relatives presented various sob stories, each more dramatic than the last. Financial ruin, medical emergencies, investments that would triple the money for everyone. 2 hours in, I'd heard every manipulation tactic in the book. Then Grandma Rose spoke. Earl was my husband for 43 years. I knew that man inside and out. And I know why he left everything to Jeannie. The room went silent. It wasn't because she was perfect. It was because she loved him without expecting anything in return. Every Sunday, rain or shine, she was there. Not one of you visited more than twice a year. Her voice was steady, strong. Earl told me a year before he died, Rose, watch what happens when I'm gone. Watch who shows up for the money and who showed up for love. He knew exactly what he was doing. Mom tried to interrupt, but Grandma held up her hand. No. You all had your chance to speak. Now I'm speaking. This girl worked herself to the bone, putting herself through school. None of you helped. You all made excuses about why Nelson needed support, why Selma needed help, but Jeannie? She was supposed to figure it out on her own because she was the smart one. Well, she did. And Earl saw that. He rewarded character, not need. The room erupted into arguments. Accusations flew. Old resentments surfaced. Siblings fighting over childhood favoritism, cousins rehashing decade-old grudges. I watched it all unfold, this family that claimed they needed to stay together, tearing each other apart over money they'd never had. As I listened to them argue, a pattern emerged that I'd somehow missed my entire life. This wasn't about me or the inheritance. This was the way they'd always operated. Nelson was the golden child who received everything, Selma was the baby who needed protection, and I was the responsible one expected to succeed without support and then give back everything I earned. Connie, who'd come as my emotional support, leaned over and whispered, "Do you see it now? You've been the family bank for years." He was right. I thought back to all the times I'd loaned money that was never repaid. The time I co-signed on Selma's car and ended up making half the payments. The holidays where I bought all the gifts for my nieces and nephews because Nelson and Selma can't afford it. I'd even helped with my parents' mortgage during Dad's unemployment, money I never saw again. Thousands of dollars over the years, gone without thanks or acknowledgement. I was never family, I was a resource to be exploited. The realization hurt worse than anything they'd said. They didn't love me. They loved what I could provide. Enough. I stood and the room fell silent. I've heard everyone. I've listened to your reasons, your justifications, your requests. And I've made my decision. Mom smiled, confident she'd won. Dad leaned back, satisfied. Nelson actually looked bored, like this was a formality before getting his money. I'm giving away every single penny of the inheritance. The room exploded. What? You can't be serious. See, I told you she was selfish. I raised my voice over the chaos. I'm creating a scholarship fund. $500,000 to help kids like me. Kids from struggling families who love learning, who work multiple jobs, who don't have families willing to support their education. Kids who get told they're the smart one as an excuse to receive zero help. Mom's face went purple. You spiteful little. It's called the Earl Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund, I continued. In honor of the man who taught me that love isn't transactional, that family should build you up, not tear you down, and that character matters more than obligation. The first scholarships will be awarded next semester. The screaming started immediately. Dad lunged toward me, but Uncle Kenneth held him back. You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you. Nelson threw a chair which hit the wall with a crash that made everyone jump. Selma stood there in shock, tears streaming down her face. Whether from anger or genuine hurt, I couldn't tell anymore. You've ruined this family. Mom shrieked. You've destroyed us over your petty grudges. Grandma Rose's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. No. You destroyed this family years ago. You just didn't notice because Jeannie kept quietly holding it together. Well, she's done now. And good for her. My mother turned on her own mother. How can you support this? She's stealing from your grandchildren. Grandma's laugh was bitter. By grandchildren, you mean Nelson, right? Because that's the only grandchild you've ever cared about. Jeannie stopped being your daughter the moment she didn't need you anymore. Or maybe she never was. Maybe she was just another investment you expected returns on. The truth of it hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. My lawyer stood up. This meeting is over. Miss Thompson has made her decision. The estate will be settled according to her wishes as the legal beneficiary. If anyone continues to harass her, we'll pursue legal action including restraining orders and stalking charges. I've documented everything that's happened over the past month. You'll regret this. Dad shouted as I headed for the door. You'll come crawling back and we won't be there. I turned to face him one last time. You were never there, Dad. That's the point. I've been alone my entire life. The only difference now is I'm choosing it. The words came out stronger than I felt, but I meant everyone. Outside, Connie wrapped me in a hug as I finally let myself cry. You did the right thing, she whispered. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. My phone was already blowing up with texts. Threats, curses, guilt trips. I powered it off. Take me home, I told Connie. Not to my apartment, to hers. I couldn't face being alone yet. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life. I had to change my phone number 3 more times. I moved to a new apartment building with better security. I blocked so many social media accounts that Facebook started suggesting I take a break from the platform. My family's harassment eventually died down, but the silence that replaced it was its own kind of painful. Some days I questioned everything. Had I been too harsh? Should I have just given them some money to keep the peace? Then I'd remember the look on my mother's face when she said Grandpa was senile. I'd remember sitting alone at my graduation. I'd remember every time they made me feel like my accomplishments didn't matter because I wasn't Nelson. And I'd know I made the right choice. The Earl Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund became my purpose. I worked with the university to establish criteria. First-generation college students from underserved communities who demonstrated financial need and strong academic potential despite working to support themselves. The first year we funded 10 full scholarships. 10 students who wouldn't have to choose between textbooks and groceries. I met each recipient personally. Destiny was a 19-year-old single mother taking classes between shifts at a call center. James worked overnight at a warehouse while studying computer science. Alicia sent every spare dollar home to her family while pursuing her nursing degree. Their stories reminded me why I'd made this choice. These kids were me 5 years ago. Brilliant, hardworking, invisible to families who didn't value education. At the first scholarship award ceremony, I gave a speech. My grandfather taught me that the best inheritance isn't money, it's the belief that you deserve better. These scholarships honor his memory by giving students what I fought years to understand. You are worthy of support. Your dreams matter. Your education matters. And you don't have to prove your worth by sacrificing yourself for people who don't appreciate you. The applause felt different from my graduation day. This time I wasn't alone. I was surrounded by students whose lives would change, by professors who believed in this mission, by Connie who'd stood by me through everything. For the first time in months, I felt something other than grief or anger. I felt hope. 2 years later, I received a letter. The return address made my hands shake. Grandma Rose. I hadn't spoken to her since that terrible day, unsure if maintaining contact would restart the harassment. Inside was a short note in her shaky handwriting and a newspaper clipping about the scholarship fund's expansion. We'd grown to fund 30 students annually. Dear Jeannie, the letter read. I'm dying. Cancer. The doctors say I have maybe 3 months. I'm not writing to make you sad or to ask you to come back. I'm writing to tell you how proud I am. Earl would be too. You took his gift and multiplied it 100-fold. Those kids you're helping, that's his legacy. That's our family's real legacy, not the bitterness and greed the others showed. The letter continued, your mother calls sometimes. She never asks about you, just complains about money problems. Nelson's career didn't pan out. Turns out talent without discipline doesn't go far. Selma's still struggling, still waiting for someone to save her. They haven't changed. They've only gotten more bitter. But you've become the woman your grandfather always knew you could be. Strong, purposeful, free. I hope you found peace. I hope you've built a life surrounded by people who appreciate you. I hope you've learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up for you when blood relatives won't. You showed up for Earl every Sunday. These students you're helping, you're showing up for them. That's the kind of person you are, and I love you for it. Don't come to my funeral. They'll be there, and I don't want your peace disturbed. They said live well. Love deeply. Keep helping those kids. And know that somewhere your grandfather and I are watching, proud beyond words. You didn't just honor his memory. You became his greatest achievement. All my love, Grandma Rose. I cried for 3 days straight. Connie held me through it, never saying the usual platitudes about family reconciliation or forgiveness. She understood what I'd lost and what I'd gained. When I could finally breathe again, I did what Grandma Rose asked. I lived. I loved. I helped those kids. 5 years after that family meeting, the Earl Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund has helped over 100 students. I attend every graduation now, making sure each recipient has someone in the audience cheering for them. I've watched single mothers walk across stages, first-generation students break cycles of poverty, kids who worked 3 jobs finally achieve their dreams. Last month, Destiny, one of the first recipients, graduated with honors and landed a job at a tech company. She invited me to dinner to celebrate. You changed my life, she said, tears in her eyes. I don't know where I'd be without that scholarship. Probably still stuck at that call center watching life pass me by. I hugged her tight, remembering the girl I used to be, invisible and alone. Sometimes I think about my family. I wonder if they ever understood what they lost. Not the money, they never deserved that. But me. A daughter, a sister, a granddaughter who would have moved mountains for them if they'd ever just seen me. Loved me. Chosen me even once. The grief comes in waves, usually late at night when I'm alone with my thoughts. But then I remember the scholarship ceremonies, the grateful students, the lives changed. I remember Grandpa Earl's letter. You earned this through love, not obligation. I remember that I'm not alone anymore. I have Connie, I have colleagues who respect me, I have students who thank me with tears in their eyes. I have a family I built from love and choice, not blood and guilt. My family took everything they could from me for years. They took my time, my money, my emotional energy. They took my graduation, my joy, my peace. But they couldn't take this. The power to turn pain into purpose, inheritance into impact, betrayal into a legacy that actually matters. Grandpa Earl knew what he was doing when he left me that money. He wasn't just giving me financial freedom. He was giving me permission to choose myself. And every single day, with every scholarship awarded, every student helped, every life changed, I choose me. I choose purpose over obligation. I choose boundaries over guilt. I choose the family I've built over the one that abandoned me. It's not the ending I dreamed of as a little girl who just wanted her parents to be proud. But it's an ending that would make my grandfather smile. And in the quiet moments when the grief threatens to pull me under, that's enough. That has to be enough. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you're struggling with toxic family dynamics, please know, you're not alone, you're not selfish for setting boundaries, and you deserve people who celebrate you, not just tolerate you. And if my story resonated with you, please consider supporting scholarship funds in your community. There are brilliant kids out there working themselves to exhaustion, waiting for someone to believe in them. Be that someone. I promise it changes everything. The Earl Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund has now awarded over $2 million in scholarships to first-generation college students. I continued my work in engineering while serving as the fund's director. I have not spoken to my parents or siblings in 7 years. I don't regret it,